Hey, yo, it is the Sixers Talk podcast, all up in your ear and here for your viewing pleasure on YouTube. Thank you for tuning in. Danny Pommells, along with our esteemed co-host, producer extraordinaire, Mr. Ben Berry. Oh, man, nobody does a dramatic offseason like the 76ers, Ben. I mean, they just know how to build the drama.
This has been the most drama ever for nothing to really happen.
Gosh, man. I mean, can we get some winning, some past the second round to go with all this drama? It's making an intriguing job for us, though, as people who report on it. But, I mean, we're going to get into Joel Embiid's tweets. We're going to get into Tyrese Maxey and how his role somehow plays into this Ben Simmons drama. But we are starting with the Ben Simmons drama. And in my head, Ben just bought this multi-million-dollar home in Los Angeles. He meets with the Sixers brass, which includes Josh Harris, Elton Brand, and all those guys, Doc Rivers in LA. So I just envision, him in a robe with his feet up, like sipping a martini, like telling these guys, like, I'm not coming back, figure it out on your own. I just figure him just playing it up. Like, do you see that picture? Like Ben, like super relaxed and laid out, like in front of his pool, like acting like these guys are just there as some, just visitors that are just coming by.
I see Ben doing his thing, enjoying his summer. He thought Rich Paul, his agent, was going to have this all sorted out. Labor Day's rolling up on us. He's like, oh, I'm still on the team. Rich, you need to get this done ASAP. And they pulled their, lack of a better term, like their nuclear option. I can't even say an ace up the sleeve. They went for broke.
Right. I don't even know if there's a positive way to spin this thing that Ben says he's not reporting to training camp and wants to be traded. Like, is there a positive way to spin this for the Sixers? Like, it's hard to argue that, that this is going to still keep his value high, where a lot of people thought it was low because of how things went in the postseason. And all that has transpired, like, is there a way to spin this in a positive way?
It is not for the Sixers, maybe for airlines, because they think, oh, he's going to be on vacation. I'm sure it's a resort in Hawaii or Dominican Republic somewhere. And it's like, oh, Ben Simmons, he ain't showing up to camp. Maybe he want to come down here for a week or two. It's unfortunate. This falls on a lot of people's shoulders. Most of it on Ben, because as I've said on this podcast numerous times, he has not gotten better since he's gotten to the league. Like, his offensive game has not developed. I had a low cut when he got into the league. I had a low cut when I got this job. I got the curls now. Like, his jump shots.
Who could have anticipated all this? Who could have anticipated all this?
This falls on, well, Brett Brown's not here, but a little bit maybe on him. It falls on Doc Rivers. It falls on Daryl Morey. Falls on Elton Brand. And it's just a very bad situation.
Yeah, I mean, both sides' hands are dirty. I mean, there's no way to try to make it seem like it's all one side or all the other. Both sides have some responsibility to how we got to this point. The Sixers coddled Ben. They, the moment when Brett Brown said, hey, I want you to shoot like 1-3 a game and whatnot, Ben decided he wasn't going to shoot any threes, from that point forward. Getting to the free throw line, just not something that he incorporated. So to your point about his game not improving over these, this entering his fourth season with the team, it just hasn't happened. It just has not happened. So there's Ben's responsibility, the Sixers' responsibility. And here in the middle, we have, how do we fix this? So I don't know if, you're trying to build around Joel Embiid, who is the superstar, and you bring in Ben Simmons and supposedly Markelle Fultz in back-to-back drafts as number one picks. And potentially both of these guys are about to be former 76ers. Like, it is just a cavalcade of mistakes and missed opportunities and all this process time that they spent trying to build up this new winning organization and form this roster, and it still has not gotten past the second round. It's tougher. I mean, if you're coming into the season as a Sixers fan, are you optimistic? Like, how are you feeling with or without Ben Simmons? I mean, in theory, you're not going to get the value for Simmons here in a trade because of what happened in the playoffs, which people have already criticized, and he's forcing the Sixers' hand to get the deal done sooner rather than later. So teams know that the Sixers are desperate, so they're not going to offer, their, most high quality trades in return for Simmons. So how do you fix it, Ben? Do you have an idea of how to navigate this thing?
There is no fixing it, in my opinion, unless you just cut ties. And I think the best option is to cut ties, cut your losses. And that's probably the Sixers' best move.
Just trade whatever, get whatever you can get. Just so you
get
can move
whatever.
on.
Unless the ownership wants to reshuffle and reorganize the front office and the rest of the roster and the staff, I don't think there's anything to keep Ben in town. And if you do that, you're moving a bunch of other people who are good at their jobs out. So, I'm a fan of chaos. I like disaster. So I would find it hilarious if Daryl Morey and company just say, you know what? We're not trading you. You can sit at home and we'll find you until you decide to report, and just call us bluff to see what would happen. I'm not sure all the salary cap and what the ramifications to his contract, what would happen there. If this was the NFL, I would know a little bit more about that, but the NBA, I'm not exactly sure, because I can't tell you the last time a player sat out for half the year, let alone an entire season. So, but if I was the front office, I would call his bluff, unless your star player, Joel Embiid, we'll get to that later, just said, no, I want the guys that want to be here to play and win. Like, we can move on. But if I was the front office, I would call this bluff. It's probably not the smartest move, but it's definitely the most entertaining one.
You had something interesting you said there, which I do believe can play to the Sixers' favor. And I'm going to quote one of my favorite television characters of all time on one of my favorite shows. Peter Baelish on Game of Thrones coined the phrase, chaos is a ladder. So there is opportunity in chaos. I don't know if that fits here for the Sixers situation, because there's been so much turmoil since the season ended and how the season ended. And the Sixers losing home games to the Atlanta Hawks, and, Ben Simmons passing up that dunk, and then subsequently Doc Rivers and Joel Embiid, throwing him under the bus a little bit, and not really throwing him under the bus, really telling the truth in some aspects. Maybe Doc threw him under the bus more, and Joel Embiid was just, giving his truth on how he saw the game play out. Doc Rivers answering that question from the Inquirer's Dave Murphy that, but he doesn't know if Ben Simmons is a point guard on a championship caliber team. Like, that was just seems to be the thing that Ben is harping on, that made him feel like that was the last straw and he didn't want to be here. But
what was the first several straws? I know you don't have the answer to that, but I would love to know.
I don't even know. I think he saw this as a stepping stone all along. I don't even know if he ever, a guy like Joel Embiid, like, openly saying, I want to be here the rest of my career, and, having a baby here and actually living in the city. Like, that's different than what Ben Simmons has given us. So I don't know if he was ever completely sold on this being his end destination forever. So, into the chaos is a ladder point. There could be opportunity for the Sixers to make this work out in their favor if I think another team is involved. And I know we've been saying this a long time, but I think the Sixers can try to, get closer to his value. I don't know if they'll get the full value, but get closer to his value if another team is involved. Just because, we're closing in on this trade exception. Ben wants out. Maybe there's something there that can be finagled in order to make it, come back into the Sixers' favor. I just feel like Ben doing this now, I don't know if intentionally, because we don't know what he's thinking, but if you're upset with the team, if you know you don't want to be here and you go the whole summer and don't say a word, and then this close to training camp, you say, well, I'm not reporting and I want you to trade me. It's like he's tying the team's hands. He's screwing the Sixers, because him saying that makes him lose all their leverage. You know what I'm saying? So it's I don't know, who knows if he did it intentionally, but it's just such odd timing. You could have said that, in June that, oh, get me out of here. You know what I'm saying? But him saying it now is just so weird with training camp, less than a month away, and then all of a sudden you're going to take this really firm stance, like, I don't care about the money if you find me, but get me out of there. I don't want to be there. Like, what happened all the other months of the summer? Like, you just were like partying or doing your own thing and just pushing the Sixers to the wayside. Like, what led up to this point of now being the time where he said this? So I think that's one of my big questions. But chaos could be a ladder for the Sixers.
I think it was just the fact that it hadn't happened yet. Training camp is less than 4 weeks away, or about 4 weeks away. And he wanted something to happen, and it had not happened yet. Rich Paul, his agent, was pushing for him to be moved. Daryl Morey wasn't doing it unless he got true value back. And the argument of whether like his value hadn't gone down, I don't. Whatever his original value was, I don't know. I don't know if you know. I don't think most people know. But it's not what Daryl Morey is asking for. And after Ben pulling this move, it's gone down even more. So it puts the Sixers in a bad situation. And unless he's just really willing to just napalm this relationship, well, it's gone away. It's this bridge is broken.
The bomb is dropped. The bomb is dropped.
I didn't want to say bomb, but yeah, I see no way it can be repaired. But another reason this is on Ben, because if it's to do with the fans, like Danny Green has implied, and we'll get to Joel Embiid's Twitter rant yesterday. Ben, all you had to do was embrace the city. It just goes to Carson Wentz as well. I don't think he did that great of a job embracing the city. Bryce Harper did it within the first 2 days he was in Philadelphia. Like, I came here because I love the fans and I want to win the championship. Like, it doesn't take much for the city's fans. And not saying like we're easy, but if you play your heart out and say the right things, like, people don't love you. Allen Iverson never won a championship. He is loved here. Randall Cunningham, loved here. Jaws, loved here. Plenty of Flyers, loved here. If you just play your heart out, yeah, the media, and that includes you and me, can be tough and ridiculous at times and unfair. But the city, if you play your heart out, even if you don't win a championship and some fans get upset or frustrated, you will be loved. You will be embraced by the city. Mike Scott, people are frustrated with his play the last year plus 2 years, but I don't think anyone hates him. They just think he's not a productive player. But if people see him around on the streets, they'll definitely be excited to see him because he embraced the city when he got here, even if he was fighting with fans in the Washington Orange jersey.
Hey, I mean, distractions are everywhere. You're not going to get any perfect scenario. I mean, unless you want to go, run and hide in Orlando like Markelle Fultz, like, and try to, shelter yourself from like the bigger markets. Like, if Ben wants to be a marquee player, he wants to be, a Hall of Famer, LeBron-esque, be virtuoso, then criticism is going to come with that. Boos are going to come with that. People calling out, fair or unfair weaknesses or inconsistencies, like that's going to come with that. So I feel like, Ben and his relationship with the city, like you said, is really based on him. Like, I think, people underestimate how smart Philly sports fans are. Like, we notice things. We pick up on trends. We can read body language. Like, unless you're going to come out openly, like Bryce Harper, which is a good example, and say, this is where I want to be, like Joel Embiid, I want to win a championship here. Like, people are going to second guess, the decisions you make or how you move. We pick up on things. We see things. So I guess he feels like he's the smartest person in the room, or he's going to, determine what people see and how they perceive him. You can't control those things. And despite his best efforts, it just is just falling apart in some ways. The facade and this wall that he puts up is crumbling. And, the Sixers fans and the organization are just caught in the middle of him trying to find out who he is or figure things out. And instead of like, joining with the organization and getting them to play a major role, he's going, outside of the organization and getting his own people and working out with them instead of, like Doc Rivers said, like we have a regiment for him. We have something, a way for him to kind of work through these issues that he's having. But it seems like Ben doesn't want that. And I think, to my point earlier, like he knew all along that he didn't want to be here. He knew once the season ended, but he waited here until this specific time to like, let people know, so close to training camp, so close to when, this little window of opportunity to trade him and keep some of his value was there. So I feel like him saying it now is just a big FU to the organization. Like, you know what? You're not going to get great value for me, and I'm going to go somewhere else and ball out for them and still make my money and still have things the way I want. But I mean, a part of my thing is like I'm trying to, like, when I spend time thinking about this, I'm trying to think about like all the moments where things get wrong. And I get kind of lost because there's so many things you can point to. But I feel like the coddling, along with him having this mentality that he doesn't need to work on the things he's bad at because the things he's good at will overcome those things. Like it didn't work out. It didn't, get to the promised land. And then a little breaking news to pass along: Paul Millsap, a dude that the Sixers were looking at and were thinking about bringing in a free agency, he signed with the Brooklyn Nets. So it continues to cascade for the Sixers.
It stinks, and I guess it's just a matter of opinion and perspective when things just started to go downhill. And as people, I read YouTube comments, I read the comments in the pods. Like, I'm a negative Nate or whatever, Yo, I think this started a couple years ago, and I think it's just shown just the not instability, but bad decision making since just 2017, 2018, when they traded for Tobias and Jimmy Butler. And I don't want to go down that road again. It's very unfortunate, and the fans deserve better. I'm not going to say the organization deserves better, but it's a mess. Ben brought this upon himself. I'm not a bitter person and think I hope he lose wherever he goes to next or anything like that. I want everyone to succeed. All I ask is, Adam Silver, if you ever see this podcast, or anyone in the NBA office, if you have say over the schedule, and Ben Simmons does get traded, put his first game against the Sixers on national television. That's all I ask.
They tend to have a way to do that, don't they?
Yeah, they do. That's all I ask.
Yeah.
Make it like a Friday or Saturday night too, so I don't have anything to do the next day. No football the next day. Make it a national televised game.
In all this Ben Simmons chatter is suddenly the revelation that Tyrese Maxey also wants out. But we see a lot of things come across the social media landscape. But Jason Dumas, a friend of the podcast who we've had on before, reported that Tyrese Maxey, who was also represented by Rich Paul, who represents Ben Simmons, wants to be traded because he doesn't want to be dangled or included in the Ben Simmons trade, and then him coming here and trying to lay down roots is suddenly there's an upheaval from that, because he's here in Philly trying to lay down roots, and the Sixers meanwhile are trying to behind closed doors make a move to include him in the Ben Simmons trade to raise his value. So supposedly Rich Paul wanted Tyrese Maxey to be traded ASAP as well. So that was like a weird revelation that I didn't see coming. It was a little confusing because everyone here is excited about what Tyrese Maxey brings. And as you've mentioned in a previous podcast, you can see him stepping into the role Ben Simmons leaves behind. So, like, what did you make of that? Like, I'm sitting here reading it and respect Jason's reporting, which he updated, a bit later, saying that Maxey's excited about coming to camp and what have you. So there's a little bit of maybe spin from Rich Paul's camp to try to get that information out there. But I don't know how, you see people saying things like it's them paying for the sins of the process because all of the losing that they did isn't quite working out and translating into the winning and the success that they expected. So how do you feel about it? Are you seeing it the same way, or you feel like they're paying for the sins of the process when they're potentially losing, great players who can help them build a better organization like Tyrese Maxey because of the Ben Simmons stuff?
I'm not seeing that at all. What I am seeing, or what I'm thinking is, well, one, the Maxey revelation, that part definitely shocked me and came out of nowhere.
What? Like, it's just getting worse. It's just like you see a drip and all of a sudden it's just a faucet.
I don't know why this popped in my head. One of my favorite movies, Rush Hour 1, when Chris Tucker is in the Chinese restaurant, he's about to fight, and he gets kicked by someone he's not looking at. He's like, which one of you hit me? That's what the Tyrese Maxey trade was. Like, out of nowhere, wasn't prepared for it. And after doing Jason Dumas, his reporting and doing some more reading, you find out is Rich Paul's client. My takeaway is a power move by Rich Paul. And it's like, you know what? You guys got to trade my client now. And you know what? On top of it, get another client out of here. And I think the sole purpose of this is, stay with me, listeners, if the Sixers don't bend to his demands, since Rich Paul is most powerful agent in the NBA, if not one of the most powerful agents, the Sixers won't get one of his clients in the future because, like, oh, look how that organization has done other players during the process, and my two clients of Ben Simmons and Tyrese Maxey. So that's what I think it is. It's more down the road when Sixers are looking at free agents or draft picks in the future, and they're represented by Rich Paul, Rich Paul telling his client, like, you don't want to go there. It's a bad organization. So I think a lot of that is at stake here.
This boy is playing a different game, though. Like, he's, creating dividing lines and lines in the sand where I don't think there needs to be one. Like, you got to do like Maxey, who he's trying to use as leverage for force the team to trade Ben. Like, it seems like, the Ben Simmons report comes out from Keith Pompey that Ben has demanded a trade, which they've been trying to figure out. Like, he's not going to report to training camp was the report, and he wants to trade. So they've been trying to do that. That's already been in the process of trying to happen. And then shortly thereafter, the Maxey report comes out that Rich Paul doesn't want his client included in a, dangle with Ben Simmons to try to it's not in Maxey's best interest to leave the Sixers with Ben Simmons. So to assume that the Sixers were going to do that, and then like he's leveraging Maxey with Simmons in order to facilitate a trade, like that's not in his best interest. That doesn't serve Tyrese Maxey, where he would have plenty of opportunity from a basketball standpoint to come here and fill some of the void that Ben Simmons leave behind and get opportunity and the place that drafted him that wants him to be here. So like, I think that's really confusing. And if true, very disingenuous on Rich Paul. Like, what kind of game are you playing? Like, okay, I get it. Like, it's a business, and, leverage and positioning means a lot, but it doesn't serve Tyrese Maxey at all to leave the Sixers unless the Sixers deem that is part of what needs to be done in order to trade Ben Simmons, or just to make the team better, so to speak. So making the team better is what they're most concerned about. So to think that including Tyrese Maxey is something they wouldn't want to do. That was part of the sticking point of the Harden trade, of including, those guys in the deal. Something the Sixers didn't want to do. So I'm looking at Rich Paul with a bit of side eye right now, because I'm like, well, like, are you really out here just trying to like do what's best for your clients? You got Nerlens Noel, a former Sixer, suing him. Like, I don't know what's going on, and from that aspect, so a lot of questions, but not a lot of answers.
I think he's doing what's in Ben Simmons' best interest, not Tyrese Maxey. So Ben Simmons is going to make him more money.
That's shady. You got to get a new agent. You need a new agent, bro.
Yeah,
out of here.
I hear you. You said that Maxey was excited to come to camp. I think that's what you said a few moments ago.
Well, that's what the update was from Jason Dumas. Like, oh, Maxey's excited to come to camp. He loves being in Philly, blah, 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 blah.
So, yeah, it's clearly like some disconnect there, but it's just a power move by Mr. Two Names, Rich Paul. Shout out to Ty Johnson for that, Mr. Two Names, two first names. It's unfortunate that Maxey is like in this position now because I'm sure he wants to play. And Dumas says he was excited to report to training camp, but I'm sure he just wants to play basketball. But Rich Paul knows the power he has as just being LeBron's agent, being this mega agent in the NBA. And if the Sixers don't want to burn the possibility of getting high value free agents in the future, they're going to bend to my will. That's how he's probably looking at it.
Well, that is it. Your point about that is summed up from this Jason Dumas sentence from his original tweet about Tyrese Maxey being a part of a Ben Simmons trade. Rich Paul would like both of his clients out of Philadelphia. Like, wait a minute, like, what is going on? Like, so future clients can't come here? Like, what? Like, are you disenchanted with the Philadelphia front office? Like how?
That sounds like when the parent is upset their kid not the starting point guard or quarterback for the little league team. I want both of my kids off the team. We're going to go to the rivals down the street. That's how it sounds.
Yeah, it does sound like that. A few local Philadelphia-based organizations, this is Jason Dumas's tweet, had planned on partnering with Maxey on some community events. They were told to cancel those plans. Paul would not like Maxey to grow roots in Philly if he could be gone. Like, okay, any player can get traded at any moment, but it had to be some pretty. If we believe Jason Dumas is reporting, which we do, and then the subsequent tweet that came after that kind of backpedaled some of that, but bro, anybody can get traded at any moment. So are you just like ready to like break ties with the Philly organization altogether? Like there must have been something concrete that forced him to have that stance that, Tyrese Maxey could be traded. So let's get them both out of there. Get him out of there. I don't want him to be in Philly. Like that's a lot to process, man, because if you're a Sixers fan and you're looking just at a basketball standpoint, how this team can survive from Simmons being traded, Maxey is a big part of that. He's probably option number one when it comes to filling some of that point guard role and point guard duties.
Yeah, it's wild to think, and it's a lot to take in. It's unfortunate. Maxey would be, unless they got a point guard back in return in the Ben Simmons trade. I don't know who that point guard would be, but hypothetically speaking, Maxey would be the starting point guard moving forward. After that, who do you really want running point? The rookie Springer? I don't want Seth Curry running point. I guess Shake, but we've been down this road, and
we have been down that road.
It's not fair to him. It's not fair to the rest of the team.
How about what do you make of this updated message? Now, I've been paraphrasing this message, but this sounds like it came directly from Rich Paul. Tyrese, this is the updated message after the original tweets on August 31st. Tyrese Maxey is excited about this upcoming year with the Sixers, as is Rich Paul and the 76ers. Paul does not want Tyrese out of Philly. However, the Ben Simmons situation is totally separate. Like, that sounded like it came right from Rich Paul's lips. Like, he's excited about the season with the Sixers. Maxey is excited about the season, as is Rich Paul. Like, I don't believe, when I see Rich Paul on TV, hope his relationship with Adele goes really well because I'm a big Adele fan. But as far as his business acumen and dealing with the 76ers, I'm all side-eyed toward that guy. I just think he has ulterior motives, and he's tearing down the organization in some aspects, forcing the Sixers to get rid of you want Joel to be the franchise player, but Ben Simmons is equally a franchise player along with that.
I won't go as far to say he's tearing down the organization.
Come on, man. The Sixers themselves.
The Sixers themselves was on rocky foundation all on their own.
And
They
this
did
don't
that
help.
on their own.
That's my thing. Is
Yeah,
like
Rich
you can
Paul's not
survive the
helping
Marco
by any
Fultz
means.
trade if Simmons. You can survive the Marco Fultz trade if Simmons and Embiid work out,
Yeah.
but you can't survive Fultz and Simmons not working out.
I hear you. That's why I'm saying is Rich Paul is doing what's best for him and his client Ben Simmons. I'm not going to go as far as say Tyrese Maxey as well, but for him and Ben Simmons to say he's tearing down the organization, I think we're just overlooking Colangelo, the moves Elton Brand made, letting Jimmy Butler walk, or the sign and trade for Jimmy Butler, signing Tobias Harris to the max contract, Brett Brown's coaching failure, Doc Rivers blowing 2 20-point games in the semifinals and blowing 3 leads in the semifinals as well, losing to the Hawks. Rich Paul's not helping. It's just he's not the one tearing it down. Before
It's
we move
messy,
on,
bro.
Go ahead. And back to Ben Simmons demanding a trade. You know what? I respect it. I don't think he realizes how this is going to play out, because if Daryl Morey and the Sixers brass is petty, they're going to do whatever they want. And I don't know if they're petty, but you know what? If my boss Travis Hughes is hearing this, I demand to be in a Fast and Furious movie. People out here just making demands. I demand to be the Fast and Furious movie and replace The Rock, since same company and all that.
Same physique.
It's not going to happen.
Too?
You said what?
Same physique as The Rock.
Physique? I'm bigger. You know what I mean?
Bigger than The Rock, right? Exactly.
Yeah, I'm bigger. You know what I mean? I don't got the 6-pack because right now I'm bulking.
Man, I don't see a quick end to this. But worth mentioning, I know I've said it before, they have to do something with this almost $8.2 million trade exception here in 5 days. So maybe they'll be bringing someone in and Ben Simmons will be headed out. And maybe that could be a catalyst or a part of it. Who knows? But if they go out and grab with that $8.2 million trade exception any point guard help, then I'm going to read that as, Ben Simmons is going to be shipped out of here soon thereafter.
We'll see.
Ready to make a move? A Wilmington University education can take you where you want to go. WilmU works online or in person. Learn more at wilmu.edu. Well, I think what Sixers fans care about most is not the players who are trying to push their way out of Philly, or their agents for that matter, but more or less the people who want to be there and how they feel, want to be here and how they feel. I'm speaking about Joel Embiid, and everyone is focused on these tweets that he sent out just yesterday, which touched on various topics. One that has been a common theme throughout their tenure here together has been that Joel and Ben don't like each other or don't get along, where that doesn't translate to on the basketball court. On the basketball court, they have a very great winning percentage together, although it hasn't translated into getting past the second round of the playoffs. But on the court together, the stats, like as Joel Embiid put it, don't lie. But with that, it's just that the fact that Embiid continues to add on to all that stuff by saying that even though, don't believe these sources, but at the same time, I know how Philly fans can be, is what he's saying. Sources say that me and him don't get along, but I remember what the fans did to me here, which made me not like how they treated me, which maybe translates to how Ben Simmons feels about how the fans treat him. So, like I said, various topics, we'll get to them all, but do you think, let me just ask flat out, despite what Joel Embiid said, is your gut telling you that these two dudes like each other and that they get along and that there's no issue?
My gut tells me Joel Embiid has done everything to make Ben comfortable on the court and off the court during their time here. I think there's been frustration on both of their sides at times. Whether you think you or the listeners think Joel Embiid threw Ben Simmons under the bus after the passed up dunk in Game 7 against the Hawks. I don't think he threw him under the bus as much as he just expressed what he saw and his frustrations. I know after Joel sent out those tweets, people sent out the different gifts or videos of them on the court together. It didn't look all so friendly, like the All-Star game at a timeout. Ben Simmons ran on to the court and gave Joel a good game. He slapped him on the backside. Joel just turned around and wasn't like he was smiling or whatever. But I think Joel's done his best. And if there's a rift, it's not on his side. That was my takeaway from reading his tweets. That's my takeaway from watching them play for the last 4 years together.
Okay. You don't have to like dudes, right? I mean,
you don't like me.
Kobe
we
and
work
Shaq,
fine together.
Shut up. Kobe and Shaq had issues. They didn't get along. And it was the younger guy. It was Kobe who was pushing Shaq, who was calling him out, who was telling him he needs to work harder. In that dynamic, I've seen documentaries with the Detroit Pistons and Adrian Dantley and Isaiah Thomas and Mark Aguirre and all those dudes and Dennis Rodman. Some of those dudes didn't get along. I mean, we can go on and on from sport to sport and team to team, but something for me in this social media age and this time that we're in, so much is magnified. And these guys like Ben Simmons who say they don't read everything and don't, see what people say about them. I do believe that to a certain extent. A guy like Joel Embiid, who is active on social media, but also, takes that stance. I do believe that to a certain extent. But I also believe that they get the information of what people are saying, how people are reacting to them from their group, the people that are around them. So they hear those things from them, and I think that they compartmentalize or react or process those things based on what people say, even though they don't read them themselves or what they claim. I feel like that they are affected by that social media stuff and how people feel about them, where maybe in the past with some of those teams I named, like the Lakers and the Pistons and whatnot, it was all about avoiding the press clippings. It was all about avoiding the newspaper, where the social media stuff, you can't help but be infiltrated by some of those things. And if it's not you personally, maybe the people around you who read those things or see those things or, pass them along. So I think that has affected their relationship where, even though, they claim that one thing, I think what is actually happened may be a little bit different. So I think that they do care. I think they do care what people say about them. They do care about how people feel. Now, Embiid makes an excellent point, I think, when he says that he loves the criticism. It makes him work harder. He told the fans, shut the F up and, shush them. And then that drove him to be better and do more and try to, improve his game and whatnot, where maybe that makes Ben Simmons shrink. Maybe that puts him, try to put his wall up more when he sees and hears, what people say about him and hears the boos and things like that. So I think Joel makes an excellent point where he says that people just aren't affected the same way by the same thing. So where the criticism might drive me, a guy like Ben Simmons, that doesn't do anything for him. He's, has been coddled, leading up to this point, and that's where his comfort zone is. So getting out of your comfort zone, addressing some of the issues that you have is probably where greatness and those opportunities to be great come from. But I don't think Ben wants that. And I think Joel's point about the criticism affecting him one way and maybe other people differently is really spot on.
I would agree 100%. It's no different than just when we play high school sports or whatever. Everyone responds a different type of coaching. Yelling at you might work. Yelling at me might not. Letting me figure it out might work for me. Not saying anything, let you figure it out, might not work for you. Everyone responds differently to different types of criticism, different types of coaching, and so forth. Anyone that's listening that's a parent knows you parent your kid differently, each kid differently, because they're different. They react differently to different things. So Joel Embiid's point, like, yes, like he responded to that criticism. Ben doesn't seem like he has. Besides just saying, like, I know I saw on Twitter like several people that in the media were like at a complete loss and it being unfortunate. But I really think that any riff is not on Joel Embiid's side. And I don't even want to say it's on Ben's side. Joel's pretty defiant and like if it was in person, I would say defiant and strong in his stance that like some people make things up and whoever their sources are is not either one of the two players. That's how I feel about it.
But you got like this alpha male thing going on. Do you think there's any truth to that? Like, at one point in time, there was some uncertainty about who the franchise player was. Is it Joel? Is it Ben? Like, who's more valuable? And there's a little bit of a, maybe not open competition, but a little bit of competition there to kind of rise to the top, to be the best, to be the guy, the marquee player, where, both guys, redshirted or sat out a year. Both guys dealt with injuries. Maybe the accolades came a little bit quicker for Ben than it did Joel because Ben was rookie of the year. But so there was a moment there where it wasn't quite sure. But so I think in that competition, maybe that's where maybe some of the rift might have happened or the differences or the, not seeing eye to eye. But in all that Joel said, there was one line which I think really everyone harped on was Philly fans, y'all got to do better. Do the fans got to do better too? What the fans got to do better? We can't, like, isn't the game booing? Isn't the game criticism? It like isn't part of the game, being over the top in some aspects because, obviously within reason, but booing is within reason. Is that are these athletes too sensitive? Like, did you make something of that?
When I was in DC working on MLB network radio, I had conversations with a bunch of former baseball players and how they felt about booing. And former players and GMs, and some of them were cool with it, others not so much. I think booing is fine. I think booing is completely acceptable. I also think it should end there. Like, you shouldn't be calling, personal attacks, calling people fat, slob, things like that. I think bum is fine, but fat, slob, worthless, things like that, I think it's kind of over the line because you want to say
attacks,
these things,
right?
Yeah, you want to say these things to a player in public if you saw them at your local grocery store or local movie theater, local restaurant, things like that. Yes, you want to say it to their face. And it's really hard for me to say because I know it's not all Philadelphia fans. By no means. It's not even 90%. But when you have like that one fan that dumps popcorn on Russell Westbrook, who it's just an embarrassment, and I wish they would have put him in the room with Russell Westbrook for like 10 minutes. But when you have other fans like, oh, it was only popcorn, like those individuals, not Philly fans, but those individuals and fans at large in every sport need to do better.
Well, they're seeing like booing to me is I'm booing your performance. So that completely, like, I'm booing the moment. I'm booing what you did at that time. Mm-hmm. Right. Calling Joel Embiid fat or, Ben Simmons a dummy because he didn't shoot the ball. Like, you're going too far, flipping the bird to players and all that. Like, that's way too far. Ben had a moment which he spoke about. And it was during the playoffs against the Brooklyn Nets a few years ago. And he was booed by the fans. He responded and played a great game. And then went out and said that he wanted to prove people wrong. That was part of his impetus because he came out and criticized the fans after he was booed and saying that, fans were out of line. And then he came out and played well and then talked about it afterward that he wanted to prove people wrong or whatnot. So I think he gets that, but how does that affect him personally? I think he internalizes a lot of that booing or people not being pleased with him or whatnot. So, and that goes back to the coddling. So
you saying he Michael Jordan in The Last Dance? Someone boos, he's like, I took that personally.
Well, took it personally in a different way. I took it personally, like it go into your shell, as opposed to take it personally and erupt, for a big performance. So, do Philly fans got to be better? No, we don't have to be better. We're just fans. And everyone is different, and it shouldn't affect you like that. Is easy for me to say, but once again, I think in this really tight world of like access and more access than we're used to, and you find out information that maybe you didn't always know because we're following these athletes' lives on social media to some extent and whatnot. I think that people take things too personal. Maybe there's a pride factor, an ego factor that weighs into all that. So I wholeheartedly disagree with Joel. The fans don't have to be better. This is a blue collar city where people pay their money, hard earned money, in order to, watch these games, in order to go to these games. And they feel like, the athletes should reflect that same blue collar mentality, which I think Joel Embiid has adopted. And I don't see, Ben Simmons is a little bit more manicures and facials than I think, hard hat and lunch pail. You know what I'm saying? So I think that rift and that difference, I don't think he fits the mold where you bring up a guy like Bryce Harper in the previous segment. He is like a hustle, pedal to the floor. I'm going to squeeze a double out of this single type of guy, all hair and effort and energy. You know what I'm saying? Where I think Ben is more finesse. He's more, take advantage of the things that I do well, but I'm not going to work harder on the things that I don't do well, where that work hard and improving thing and being better is part of what people admire so much about our athletes.
So I hear you that people pay their hard-earned money to watch these games, to go to games and all that. So, I'm not saying you can't boo, but go for it. And I'm really indifferent on booing. But I would say you have the right to boo, and the players have the right to respond however they want. And also, no one's forcing you to pay money to see any sport and anything. So, that's really how I feel.
So the fans got to be better, you think? The fans have to be better?
Because, as I said, I don't even think it's 90% of fans that Joel Embiid is talking about. I think it's less than 10% of the fans. You also got to bring up the tweet from a sports radio show here in Philly of that fan that was just saying they'll never win with Joel Embiid. They should trade him.
But why? But he says he doesn't listen to that. But he says that he doesn't read the comments. He says
he was using that as an example of being better.
I'm just saying, why would he even know about that? Why would he even know that was said if he doesn't watch it or doesn't listen or doesn't pay attention?
I'm sure for him to prove his point, because it wasn't like this was something recent. I believe that tweet was posted over a year ago, if not more. I believe you have him up at the moment. So I think he easily just found that on the web. For example, be better. Don't be this guy. I don't think Joel Embiid is talking about most Philadelphia fans. I think he's talking about a small percent who embarrass themselves when they act out in public, embarrass their families.
February 11th, 2020 was that message you're talking about from that radio station here in Philly. Yeah, okay. But why is that 10% so vocal? Why is it so loud? Why do they get the attention?
I don't think it's that they're more vocal than anyone else. I think with the way
that's what the athletes are harping on, that minority.
I say it's no different than a review of a restaurant on Yelp or wherever. You can have, and I forget, I learned this in college, doing some business management type stuff, that you can have 10 people go to your restaurant. 9 people have great experiences. One person have a bad one, and that's what sticks out to everyone. People focus on the negative. When you turn on the news, when you go on the internet, nine times out of 10, the first thing you see is something negative because negativity catches people's eyes. That's what people harp on. If Meek Mill, I'm gonna use him because he's the local rapper from the area. If he drops a new album, a new project, he can get a lot of reviews will be good. The 2 or 3 that are bad reviews, that's what he's upset about. It's unfortunate. I don't know why humans are programmed that way, but they are.
Yeah, it's like Joel saying, I love the criticism, but then saying he doesn't read the comments and he's like above it all, but he knows what the criticism is. Like there is like a disconnect there. Like either you do know what people are saying about you or you don't. And I don't know why they feel like they have to act like they're not paying attention when we all know that they are. But
when they pay attention, then they're called soft or fragile minded and things like that. I think he took that criticism and it encouraged him, it pushed him to be better. It didn't work the same way for Ben Simmons. You and I or Noah, Amy.
But you also have to be a little self-aware. Simmons just continues to release these videos, man. Like he's still shooting threes in the summer.
He didn't release it.
You're not self-aware enough to know that that's not resonating, bro.
His agent released it, and I don't think Ben cared.
Don't show me shooting threes, period. Don't show me shooting threes. Like that's stupid.
We talked about that when you was on vacation. Like me and Noah talked about it because people were upset, and I was like, I'm not upset that because everyone was like getting the gym and practice. I think he was at some tennis match, and people were like, oh, why is he practicing? Why is he in the gym? Then video comes out a few weeks later of him in the gym shooting with Rondo and things like that. And then people are upset about that because it's not in the game. You don't have to show me you're working on your craft until it's time to prove that you've been working on your craft. Ben Simmons, I don't think, and this is completely my opinion, so I don't have a relationship with Ben Simmons. I don't know him. We don't text or anything. I don't think it's him caring about people's opinions as much as it's a perfect scapegoat for, hey, this is why I want to leave the city.
Yeah, I feel you. That makes a lot of sense. I just think Joel, which, we all have our shortcomings and flaws. Joel is just more self-aware. And just Ben is just not, man. It's just continue to show him by like the decisions and moves that they make. Like, good.
Every athlete's not self-aware. I mean, what was it last month?
Every person doesn't have to be an athlete. Every person is self-aware.
And
all of us aren't self-aware at the same time.
Every person. Last month, the Bills, Cole Beasley, the receiver for the Bills, for some reason got an all-pro vote the other year, which still makes no sense. But he had the press conference about after all summer saying how he's not taking the vaccine and this and that. And he'll do whatever to keep him and his family safe and his freedoms and rights and whatever. And this isn't you should get vaccinated or anything rant by me. This is all I'm saying is after all that this past summer, when training camp starts, he's up there reading a written statement with a mask on, but it's not on properly. And it was just like, there was no self-awareness there. Like, or Derrick Rose, after he had a huge game a couple of years ago, then he told he's like, everyone that said bad things about me, go kill yourself. Like, not everyone is self-aware. It is unfortunate.
Yeah, and we all have lapses and moments where we fall short. But I don't know. I mean, I just like Simmons. I'm kind of that guy where I kind of like put all the pieces together. Like, okay, well, this and that and this and like I kind of like so. The general perspective I get from Ben when you talk about the lack of self-awareness, you talk about not being able to handle the criticism and him being super controlling of what people see about him and what they don't. I just feel like, he's been enabled to do those things all along the way to be able to, not reflect on, his shortcomings and, work on the things that he doesn't do well. Like people have enabled that all along. And like here, as the Sixers fan base, we're like, whoa, wait a minute. Like that doesn't make sense. Like that doesn't like, why'd you do that? And you're shooting 34% from the free throw line and the free throws. And you passed up that dunk and Matisse you like all that stuff kind of combines, I think, in our eyes, and I don't think they should be let off the hook for that. So I don't know if the fans should be better. I thought that was a little weak on Joel's part.
I don't think it's all fans. I think it's a small percent that just be acting like fools. That's how I feel about it. But I don't think that's Philadelphia fans. I think that's sports fans in general.
Hey, I have to have a moment of self-awareness. I suddenly, me and Ben had like a t-shirt war on this episode where he had a super cool t-shirt. I had a pretty cool t-shirt. I got to give Ben the W on this. He's got the Fresh Prince with the bench pressing thing. I'm impressed. I like it. So,
yeah.
Hey.
It's not a snatch, but I think his arms a little not wide enough to be a snatch, but too wide for it to be a jerk. So a push jerk.
I tell you what,
maybe
though, it's still. I see 3 plates and maybe a 25 on there though. So it's a lot going on.
Oh, that's over. That's Olympic plates too. So kilos. So yeah, my math's right. This might be like 4+.
Okay, Will Smith getting it up, but hopefully I can get to the gym today. I've been slacking lately, a little bit of vacation mode, but I am excited to be talking Sixers. We'll be talking a lot more, obviously, as these weeks and days go on, because training camp is coming. October 20th is the start of the regular season. And remember to keep your eyes out for a possible trade, maybe 1 or 2 players. They can break up that trade exception, that $8.2 million into 4 and 4, 5 and 3, 6 and 2. They can use it however they want, but use it or lose it, they must here as they're 5 days away from the Al Horford trade exception expiring. But we will never expire here on the Sixers Talk podcast, coming to you long and strong throughout the Sixers season and off season, as you can see. For the man, Ben Berry, I'm Danny Pommells. Thanks for listening to the Sixers Talk podcast. We'll see you next week.